So next up, I want to introduce the Pease brothers. The story of Kyle and Brent Pease will inspire you to find your finish, to define for us all what is truly possible. Kyle, born with spastic quadriplegic cerebral palsy, has never stopped striving for his very best. Together with his brother Brent, he has become one of the most recognizable endurance athletes, competing in some of the world's toughest endurance challenges. Today, I challenge each of you to listen to this story of brotherhood, of teamwork, and of their interminable bond to strive for your finish. For as Kyle likes to say, where there is a wheel, there is a way.
The most competitive athlete in our house is Kyle, because he's been competing to be just like everybody else his whole life. Kyle has spastic quadriplegia, so his body is fighting itself. From the earliest age, I wanted Kyle to be included in whatever we did, and so it was like, okay, well, let's just figure this out.
Brent and Kyle Pease's brotherly bond has gone the distance.
Together, they train for the latest challenge and show us that brave conquers fear. Brent says Kyle borrows his legs and Brent borrows Kyle's spirit.
They compete as a team and raise awareness as a team as well.
What we hope is that beyond this finish line, that so many more people want to come out and experience athletics in this fully inclusive way.
Two Atlanta brothers are on their way to making history as the second ever duo wheelchair assist team to finish the Ironman.
Together, they will do a full marathon, 112 miles on a bike, and a 2.5-mile swim as Brent pulls Kyle behind him. As they've done marathons and road races, they have pushed toward one message.
If you believe in something and you want to do it, go after it.
Kyle Pease,
So please join me in welcoming brothers Kyle and Brent Pease.
Well, thank you guys for having us. We appreciate it. Good to be with you today, virtually or not. But as you guys saw in the video, Kyle and I are Ironman triathletes, and so we compete in 2.4-mile swim, 112-mile bike, and then a 26.2-mile marathon all in one day. And so you'll have to pardon us, as brevity is not usually our thing, as we're used to 14 or 15-hour endurance events. But we are really glad to be here with you all today. And you know what you saw there in the video was the IRONMAN World Championships, and that was really a lifetime of dreaming together, of being athletes. But really, more importantly, it was almost 7.5 years of waiting to be able to compete in that event. And it was a series of ups and downs. There was a lot of no's along the way. And I think the most important part for us is that no matter what, that we always kept moving forward, that we persevered through those challenging conditions. And I know it's not perfect to see Kyle on the screen today in his wheelchair, but you know, he deals with those challenges every day, living his life in a wheelchair. And for us, no was just never going to be an answer that we were willing to take. The final step for us was a half Ironman event in 2018, where we really just showed up to just sharing the experience together, because we came to this world as brothers. We shared the events as brothers, and at somewhere along the way, we lost track of that a little bit, and we wanted to continue and we wanted to enjoy. And so we knew that we had to take another step forward, that we had to keep going. And in that race that day, we actually got several flat tires on the bike, and there was a lot of opportunities for us to say, you know what, we're just not going to get there today. We're just going to have to call it in and get a ride to take us home, and we'll live to fight another day. But that was not the way that we were raised, and certainly not the way Kyle lives his life. And so we kept pushing forward. And when we finished that race that day, we were gifted a golden ticket. We were given an entry into the IRONMAN World Championships and Kona, Hawaii, which you saw in our short introduction video. And what a special experience it was to be there. But imagine if we had not kept moving forward, if we had not taken those next steps. And so always forward and always together.
Yeah, when we got into the World Championship, we had 17 weeks to get our mind and get our bodies mentally and physically prepared for the race. And 17 weeks is not a lot of time, but this is what we dreamed of, like Brett said, for 7.5 years. The Ironman World Championships in Hawaii is like the Super Bowl for our sport. So we really put our heart and soul into everything that we did leading up to the race. And when we got to Hawaii, we get something magical about the island. It just felt that we belonged. Not because of our athletic abilities, but because of our brotherly bond that we share. And that day was the coolest day as an athlete that I've experienced. Just focusing on the miles ahead and moving forward. Like Brett said, we can't worry about what happened in the past. They're on the nose. Just focus on what we can control and focus on the next mile ahead.
It's easy to get kind of caught up in the things that are going on externally around you. It's easy to play the me game, and I'm having such a hard time and I'm struggling. But Kyle's never asked that of anybody when he was growing up, and he didn't want to play that game. And so in Ironman and endurance racing, it's easy to start thinking about the struggles that you're going through, or even to start thinking about the last 20 miles behind you or the 20 miles ahead of you, instead of focusing on making the next step, on taking the next mile, as Kyle likes to say. And in the Ironman World Championships, what makes that race so difficult is the conditions. It's hot, it can be very windy. And in our year that we were there, it was very hot. And when we got on the run course, where we were staring at 26.2 miles, we got moving. And within a mile, we were stopped in our tracks. I was having issues that required me to dart in and out of porta potties. And Kyle was really tired. He was really hungry, and he was dehydrated. And so when I came out of the first bathroom stop, I looked at Kyle, and I had kind of this ghostly white expression on my face. And Kyle said, "Are you okay?" And I said, "I don't think we can go." And what I was thinking about in that moment was 25.2 more miles to go. And I can see Kyle smiling, that this is the advantage of a camera in front of us today. But he knew that we didn't have to run 25.2 miles. He knew we just had to go a few feet further, because if we could do that, then we were still moving, that we were still able to persevere and to step forward. And so in that moment, he looked ahead, and there was a traffic cone about 5 feet in front of us. And he said, "Can you just get me to that traffic cone?" And I said, "I can do that." And so I jogged a little bit further, and he said, "Get me to the next traffic cone." And all I could do was walk, but I was still moving. I was still stepping forward. And those are the things that, we all face, whatever it might be, something that you're dealing with in your everyday life, that you can't fathom how you're going to get through the next 6 weeks or 6 months. But all that we're asking for is the next 6 feet. And all Kyle was asking me to do in that moment was to go 5 feet at a time. And that's what we did. 5 feet, 5 feet, and just keep pushing forward. There's been these adverse moments that we've had to deal with in racing, but they translate to the real world. They allow us to have that patience and that ability to see forward and to continue moving forward, to be able to say, "Yes, I can," to be able to look at each other and say the positives, because we're staying exactly where we need to be. And that's so hard to do when you're thinking about 25.2 miles, or you're thinking about the next 6 weeks or 6 months, when all you really need to think about is what is in front of me and what can I manage.
I think that's critical. What's in the past, we can't control. What's in the future, we don't know. All we can control is our mind, our attitude, and our love for one another. And that was on full display that day in Hawaii. So how are you moving forward? We all have challenges, right? Some challenges are more noticeable than others, like mine. But I continue to live as I'm moving forward in my wheelchair. And that's all I can control, whether we're on the race course or not. But when we hit that finish line in Hawaii, the road was ahead of us. All of our hard work paid off for that moment. With the announcer said, Brent and Kyle Pease from Atlanta, Georgia, you are an Ironman. And we were moving forward. We focused on all of our, abilities and we learned from all of our past experiences. But what was ahead of us was to show the world what was possible. So what is your possible? We all have something. Are you going to sidestep your challenge? Or are you going to face it head on? And we chose that day and throughout our journey to focus on tackling our obstacles head on.
It's so easy to think about all of the external. It's so easy to get caught up in it. But in life, there's not an easy button. And in Ironman, the only easy way out is to stop. And that's not what Kyle and I want to do. And so we have to endure through those challenges, because once you get to that finish, once you get to that pinnacle, then you know that the hard work was worth it. Then you understand what the struggles were for. And, growing up with a brother with a disability, it took me a long time to start to really appreciate that. And Kyle has continued to share those lessons with everybody around him. And in that Ironman World Championships, it wasn't the 7 years of trying to get into the race. It wasn't our lifetime of being athletes and being brothers. It was those moments that we got through on that day. It was the traffic cones that were 5 feet apart. On the bicycle, it was just saying a simple word to each other of focus, of reminding ourselves that with everything that was around us, that we just had to focus on where we were in that moment. There was a woman there that was cheering for us and happened to be standing next to my mom, to our mother. And as time was passing and we hadn't shown up at this mile marker, everybody started getting nervous. They started to think they're not going to make it. They're not going to finish this race. In Ironman, they have very specific cutoffs. You have to make the finish of the bike by a certain time. You have to finish the entire race by midnight. And here we were in the heat of Hawaii and the wind of Hawaii, and they were worried we weren't going to make it. And she could see my mom start to get nervous. And my mom said to her, she turned and she finally looked and she said, "Where are they?" And she turned back to her and she said, "They're exactly where they need to be. You're exactly where you need to be right now. And the next 5 feet in front of you are exactly where you need to be next. Keep focusing on those small steps. Keep moving forward. Continue to persevere, and you will find a way. And together we can all say a resounding, yes, we can." Thank you all for having us today. Thank you for allowing us to be part of your summit and sharing our story with you.
Thank you, Kyle and Brent. Really appreciate that fascinating insight into, taking on, first of all, Ironman Kona with 17 weeks preparation is no small feat for anybody, so to do it together as a team must show some real tough mental resilience to be able to do that. And from someone who's done a few marathons and a few triathlons, I know when the blisters start to hurt and when you're feeling a bit dehydrated and not feeling too good, there's plenty of times when you say to yourself, why am I doing this? Why have I come this far? And I think the two of you are very, very inspiring, and I'm really fascinated to hear your story from personal perspective. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
So we do have a couple of questions, if you don't mind, just before we let you go. So a question from Alan: how would you advise someone to start trying to find their own finish when they're not yet quite sure what their main goal in life is?
That's a wonderful question. And I think, for Kyle and I, Kona was this finish line. And so for a long time, it was actually easier that we knew what it was. But today we find ourselves in this unique position that we've accomplished that. But what we were able to gain from that experience was exactly what we talked about today, about just moving forward. Those traffic cones for us are something that we talk about all the time together, that in one of the most challenging moments as athletes and just as humans, where you couldn't see the forest through the trees, you couldn't see 25 miles, all we could see was the 5 feet in front of us. So to be able to keep moving. And so Alan, I would encourage you that as you're not quite sure of what that finish line is, continue to make those small incremental steps, continue to push forward and move forward in everything that you're doing, because that picture might become clear. Or as our friend Betty said to our mom, you're exactly where you need to be.
Excellent, thank you. Okay, and then another one then from Calvin. Would you talk about a particular setback along the road that you overcame at a moment when it seemed very unlikely that you could get past it?
Yeah, a few years ago, I was pretty sick, and I was at the hospital for 2 weeks. And I didn't know if I was able, if I was ever able to race again with Brent. But I get focused on the can-do attitude that we grew up with. And get focused, like Brent said, on putting one wheel forward at a time. And like I said during the talk, just focus on what I can control, and that is my mind, and that is my spirit, and that is my love for my family and the racing community in general. So just because that we have a setback doesn't mean that our life is over. You know, we have to tackle that obstacle head on with positive vibes and a great attitude, and eventually that mountain will begin to move for you.
Great, thank you very much, Kyle, and thank you, Brent, as well. Thank you both for joining us today and taking the time out to speak to our student audience who've tuned in from all over the world as well. So thank you very much again. Really, really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Greg.